UCLA resets the football season with its quarterback, but without its defensive coordinator. Khalil Mack goes on injured reserve, and yet that's good news if you're a Charger fan. And Kawhi Leonard installed a culture of fear across the entire Clipper franchise. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the Faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It is September 18th, 2025. I am back on the road and I have a booty load of LA sports news to get to today. Do you like being in the know about LA? Well, if you do, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. Now, before we go through the news and notes, a very quick look at the scoreboard. Dodgers 5, Philly nothing. The Dodger magic number is down to 9. And LAFC smacked around Real Salt Lake for 90 minutes. They win 4-1. Meanwhile, today, Scum Francisco is in town to face the Dodgers at 7 o'clock. And Washington is at Angel City FC at 7:30. So again, it's a ton to talk about. Let's just get to the news. UCLA returned to football practice with interim coach Tim Skipper yesterday. It's a new day out in Westwood. Feel the sun on your skin. Smell the optimism. Until you get this little disturbing note about that practice. Offensive lineman Garrett DiGregorio is the longest tenured Bruins player. He has no idea who Tim Skipper is. He had to go online and look it up. That's not awkward. Now, to be fair, the Bruins have a bye this weekend, so there's plenty of time for chit-chat. One person seen on the practice field, though, was Nico Iamaleava, so the rumors of him immediately entering the transfer portal, tap the brakes on that. Skipper addressed the team, and after practice, he met up with the scribes and spoke up all the nice he could ever nice. I'll leave it to you to decide if Skipper looks like the meme of the dog drinking coffee while the house goes up in flames. Quote, had very positive conversations with our guys. This university, this campus, this coaching staff has a lot to offer these guys. You remind them of that, and they see it. They see how our energy is every day, and we're just going to take it one day at a time and keep on working, unquote. Skipper, by the way, said that despite the interim tag, he's going to put his own stamp on UCLA football in the limited amount of time he knows he has it. So, what does that mean? Well, for one, defensive coordinator Ikaika Malloe is out. Now, Skipper didn't say he fired the guy. They're calling it a mutual separation, as if they were both emotionally abusive to each other over the years and just needed to see other people. Now, according to the Times, this is not exactly a bitter parting. Malloe apparently was so distressed about Deshaun Foster's firing that he wished he could fall on the sword instead of his former boss. And then the Bruins were like, okay, here's your claymore, my dude. Go handle it in private. Malloe had served as coordinator since the LA Bowl at the end of the 2023 season. He had replaced D'Anton Lynn, who obviously went crosstown to USC. So my question to you, if you're a Bruins fan, is it fair? It's true. The Bruins conceded points this year at an alarming rate. Totally understand that. They also allowed 6.6 yards per play to their opponents, right? I saw more players slipping out of tackles as if everybody attended a Diddy party before kickoff. So I understand. But Malloy's defense last year was pretty damn solid, and he had to replace 9 starters from that unit. Now, as for who the new DC is, I don't know. What I can tell you, Skipper has been a defensive coordinator in the past. And by the way, speaking of Lynn, he told the LA Daily News that UCLA has not reached out to him for an interview to replace Foster. I can also tell you BYU coach Kalani Sitake issued a denial about the Bruins job. They're all saying the same thing. Oh, my mind's on our next opponent. Our mind's on our next opponent. It's much like when a girl tells you about her life's goals on the first date, and in your mind you're like, blah, 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 blah. So a lot of UCLA news to talk about. Feel free to let me know what you think, of course, in the comments thread. Chargers edge rusher Khalil Mack was placed on injured reserve, which is a major relief. Because if you saw how that arm went 180 degrees in the wrong direction, right at the elbow, we should all be amazed. We should be amazed that his career is continuing at all, for Pete's sake. Now, officially, they're calling it a dislocated elbow. We don't know how many games beyond the minimum of 4 that Mack will be out. If it is only 4, which, to be frank, I doubt, but if it is only 4, he would be back in Week 7 against the Colts. And yeah, I mentioned yesterday that I was chatting it up with a friend over if he is still the best edge rusher that the Chargers have. But guys, it was only 2 seasons ago when he recorded 17 sacks, right? Although it wasn't spelled out by Jim Harbaugh, the plan is likely to have Bud Dupree line up alongside Tuli Tuipulotu. Harbaugh also, you might recall, praised safety Derwin James for lining up to blitz as well. But the Bolts are still going to want depth, obviously, right? You can't just rely on your safety trying to take the place of Khalil Mack. So they worked out former Raiders first-round pick Clelin Ferrell, and they also worked out Rashad Weaver, formerly of the Titans. ESPN is questioning if the Clippers made a huge mistake in signing Kawhi Leonard in the first place back in 2019. This is before the pandemic. It was a much more innocent time then. Sources said the franchise denied many of Leonard's demands, but readily allowed others so that they could pry him away from Toronto and likely the Lakers as well. Now, we've spoken at length in the last couple of weeks about the alleged circumvention, this alleged end run around the salary cap for the Clippers to keep Leonard. We've also discussed how his uncle allegedly had a list of demands that would go against the salary cap if any of them were granted. Partial ownership of the team, access to a private plane, a free house, guaranteed off-court endorsement money. Now, none of the sources in this ESPN story linked the Clippers or Ballmer to that. That would have been the smoking gun that the NBA would want in their investigation. What the sources did say was that the Clippers allowed Leonard to live in San Diego and commute to LA via helicopter, skipping community events, skipping media obligations, hiring his people, and to not say anything about him unless it was absolutely necessary. Yes, there shall be no talking about the Kawhi. Whatever you do, you would much rather take a javelin and jam it through both of your lips to cinch it shut, lest ye say anything negative about the Kawhi. For example, the Clippers fired color commentator Bruce Bowen because he had said something negative about Leonard in 2018 before Leonard came to LA in the first place. As a result, the Clippers, desperately wanting to change course after decades of gloom under Donald Sterling, the result wasn't creating a championship environment. It was creating one of fear. Leonard didn't flip out on people as much as it was he was like Gus Fring in Breaking Bad, running the thing like Los Pollos Hermanos with an iron fist and a closed mouth. How many eggshells were the Clippers walking on? Here's a couple of examples. Former coach Doc Rivers said he was, quote, scared to answer, unquote, a direct question about Leonard's health. Doc Rivers was scared. Amazing. Hey, do you remember how Leonard used to play for San Antonio, right? Said a former staffer, quote, the Spurs were maybe the most respected, most revered pro sports team in America. It was like if this guy was willing to tell those people to go F themselves, he can't possibly be afraid to tell us to go F ourselves. Everybody was afraid of Kawhi leaving, unquote. And there's so much more in that story. As much turd that gets thrown at ESPN, and believe me, I still believe the entire entity needs to be submerged in a septic tank. I will give them credit for this random act of sports journalism. They interviewed team sources, former staffers, rivals, agents. Because you remember, Ballmer promised to do whatever it took to win multiple titles, which they haven't done, of course. But since signing Leonard with the idea that he would finally give the Clipper fans what they needed for decades, he's played in fewer than 60% of their games, and the Clippers have only won 3 playoff series. Moreover, they paid Oklahoma City a king's ransom, 7 draft picks for Paul George, because that's who Leonard wanted. And if you're looking for a bright side as a Clippers fan, I'll tell you this. A former staffer begged Ballmer to, quote, get out of the Kawhi business, unquote. The current contract is up in 2027. Another former team employee said that the Clippers are done trying to build around the guy. So there's that. The Dodgers aren't verbalizing it, but since they are apparently reconsidering bringing Shohei Ohtani out of the bullpen during the postseason, particularly in a shortened 3-game series, there's only one conclusion to draw. They are admitting the bullpen sucks. That it sucks that bad. Dave Roberts said that there is risk involved, aside from Ohtani needing a 3rd Tommy John surgery, that is. Quote, he's a very methodical, disciplined, routine-driven person. The pen is the complete opposite, right? You potentially could be taking on risk, unquote. Now, that might mean Ohtani closes, as he did for Japan in the World Baseball Classic. Ohtani suggested he might actually wind up playing in the field after relieving a pitcher if it keeps his bat in the lineup. Quote, as a player, I want to be prepared to handle whatever role is needed, depending on the situation, so I want to be ready for anything, unquote. You know, the funny thing about Mookie Betts saying his season was over, all of a sudden, after he said it, his season started. Until he abandoned all hope. You might remember that quote about giving up. He was only hitting .231. Since then, .352 with 8 homers and 30 RBI. According to Betts, maybe there's a life lesson to be learned, which you can read about in his new self-help book, Awaken the Quitter Within. Quote, I think the main thing that changed is my headspace. I'm not trying to salvage the season, not trying to get my numbers back to where I wanted them to be. I think once I saw that it's not attainable, it kind of switched my headspace into just winning. Meanwhile, over at USC, don't look now, but Lincoln Riley may have his next great quarterback. Both FoxSports.com and CBSSports.com rank college quarterbacks, and Jaden Maiava is on both lists. Fox has him ranked 9th, CBS 14th. He's also ranked as the 2nd best Big Ten quarterback in each of those lists. Maiava is 12th best in the nation overall to CBS, 2nd best in the Big Ten. 5th nationally in passing yards per game. Maiava's thrown 6 touchdowns, rushed for 2 more, and if you're a Trojans fan, this should make you happy as hell. 0 interceptions. And by the way, he's a junior. And you don't hear about him a lot in NFL draft boards. So if he stays as a senior, there's a ton of room to grow. If you're wondering about who is the best quarterback in the land, according to the scribes, it's John Mateer of Oklahoma. Also with the Trojans, cornerback Chasen Johnson will be sidelined for the rest of the season with a knee injury. He had transferred in from Central Florida. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me, for example, about the state of UCLA football without its coordinator, with an interim coach, and keeping, at least for the moment, Angelenos. And for that matter, how many rose petals are you floating to show your gratitude that Khalil Mack will play again at some point? And if you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day here, wherever the hell I am. Thank you for watching. I'm James, and we'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.